Welcome to the iXerv Cloudcast. We've got three panelists joining us today for a SuccessConnect 2017 preview. My name is AJ Whalen. I'll be joined on this panel by Mary Sidlauskas, who is Senior Director of Solution Management from SAP SuccessFactors, SAP Labs, Michele Honomichl, Executive Chairman and Chief Strategy Officer from Celergo, and Luke Marson, who is CEO Americas at iXerv. And the purpose of this session, I think since SuccessConnect Las Vegas is just now a couple weeks away, we wanted to spend a few minutes talking about what to expect coming up at SuccessConnect, and given the expertise and the insight we have on this panel, we will talk a bit about what's new in Payroll and Employee Central and other things that come up in the panelists' minds. We'll get their thoughts on what they're hoping to get out of SuccessConnect. So we're going to spend a few minutes going around with some questions, and then we'll wrap it up with each panelist's thoughts on what they're hoping to learn or achieve from SuccessConnect when we come up. And with that, I'm going to get started. So thanks to Mary, Michele, and Luke for joining us. The first question I'm going to direct to Mary. Mary, in the past year, a lot more customers have been paying attention to their payroll options as they kind of build out their cloud plans. I think we saw it started with a lot of companies putting their toes in the water, maybe with talent, and then now the focus is kind of shifting around and payroll is coming clear into view. And I know that you've got a session coming up on Wednesday, August 30th, which is paving the best path from on-premise payroll to the cloud with SAP SuccessFactors. So my question for you to kind of lead into that is, how is SAP working to enhance the payroll options for its customers, and kind of what can we expect to see and hear from SAP at SuccessConnect around payrolls? Was kind of a big question.
Thanks, AJ. Yeah, payroll's getting pretty exciting. For the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a little boring in payroll. But I think in the last year, we've seen a tremendous uptick in the interest of payroll. There's, like you said, a lot of customers really trying to define how they're going to move, what their cloud strategy is going to be, and how do they get there. Now, we're definitely learning that not everybody is ready to go directly to the cloud, though the acceptance rate of cloud payroll, which, like you said, is really one of the last pieces of the puzzle to go to the cloud, is really there. But they might not be 100% ready to take that leap from on-premise to the cloud. Yet there's, within their organization, there's reasons why they want to move to the cloud or why they need to move to a different platform. And that's really what my presentation is going to be about, is through the last couple of years of listening to customers and working with them on helping them define their digital strategy and transformation strategy. We've come up with a couple of different options. So we'll be talking about our managed payroll option, which is for on-premise customers who are not quite ready to make that jump to Employee Central Payroll, but they have internal requirements to move their existing on-premise payroll out of their data center and into a hosted environment. The next one we're going to talk about is multi-country payroll outsourcing, which I'm sure Michele will cover in detail. But for me, being around SAP for 20 years and working with payroll that whole time, I really got excited when we started rolling out what we call MCPO, or multi-country payroll outsourcing, because it's making payroll completely inclusive, and it's giving our customers an option on how to take care of those small employee populations and give them an integrated single global HR instance and a single point of touch to get their payroll process. So that's exciting to me. And then a new offering that we're going to talk about, I think it was announced when I was on vacation a couple of weeks ago, and it is called Partner Managed BPO offering, which is also pretty exciting because when you think about SAP, it's always all about large enterprise, over 5,000 pays, big companies. But there's a whole base out there of from 100 to 5,000. And we never really had a solution for them or an option for those customers. So we're going to go into detail on this partner managed BPO offering, which really is going to hit that lower end market. There's going to be a lot of sessions at SuccessConnect talking about payroll. Sometimes it's kind of difficult because as a payroll professional, before I got it to SAP, my thoughts on payroll are, it includes time, it includes benefits, it includes HR and payroll, where right now SAP is being very narrowly focused on what payroll is. So I would kind of offer up to people to really look at some of the different sessions out there. So we're going to have sessions on the new time and attendance offering, on the EC Service Center, US benefits, and even EC, and how all of these different product lines from an SAP perspective really go to build onto what you need for payroll.
I think that's important too, that whole integration part. And then also, as you said, providing the options for that range of customer sizes that maybe hadn't been well represented before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting to see SAP finally coming out of the box, right, and looking at everyone.
Very good. So Michele, that was actually like the best lead into you ever. That was, when we talked about, Mary just talked about MCPO. So one of the biggest growth areas in the payroll landscape right now is what she talked about, multi-country payroll outsourcing. So for customers who are going to SuccessConnect or just listening to this interview and gathering more information, why has MCPO become such a hot payroll deployment option?
Well, what's exciting is the shift in the payroll industry. So with the advent of HCM in the cloud, I mean, this is what SuccessFactors does, is companies have gone out and they've consolidated their HR operations globally. They actually have a strategy around this. See, in the old days, it was kind of HR was very segmented into each country. Everybody did their own thing. And then, of course, if they're really super sophisticated, they might have connected like name, address, and phone number from the local HR system into payroll. And that was what integration was all about. Now, when you have SuccessFactors, which is global in nature, you've got all of your data in one place. Companies are saying, wait a second, if I can do that for HR, well, I should be able to do that for payroll. And why it's really important for kind of the MCPO space, which can be anywhere from like sub 500. Some people look at it as sub 1,000. Some people look at it as sub 500 employees per country. Some may even look smaller, depending upon their landscape and how they look at their entire operations globally. But it's really for the smaller payrolls, countries that they didn't have on SAP and running themselves internally. Now they have an opportunity through an integration to actually be able to have all of their data from HR and all the payroll inputs into SuccessFactors and can feed that with one integration down into an MCPO. So as Celergo, and we're managing payrolls for clients in 120 plus countries, it's a great opportunity for companies to have to consolidate their HR data, send it down into Celergo, do all those calculations, feed that data back into SuccessFactors, and now at their fingertips, companies have visibility of what's going on. They have reporting capability, they have analytics, and they have control, true visibility and control for probably the first time. And so that's the really exciting part. Usually you only got that for your very largest populations, but now they can combine that with all the different options that Mary just discussed with all the smaller countries and still have the same capability and same visibility into the very low level detail that gives them all of that analytical data to really take HR to a strategic level instead of a transactional level.
And I think that's, again, I made the joke in the beginning how Mary set the stage for you, kind of teed you up for your question, but you tied it back nicely to what she was talking about, which is that overall strategy that companies are looking at this from a larger payroll strategy now and trying to come up with that one solution rather than just coming up with 20 different countries, 20 different approaches to payroll and dealing with integration 20 different times. So that's obviously one of the big keys there. So Luke, you're always at the forefront of new developments and features. And what are three things or new developments that excite you the most in SuccessFactors world right now, and how do you see them impacting customers?
Well, there's been a whole host of innovations from SAP over the last 4 or 5 years since they acquired SuccessFactors, and I think there's a list of features that are as long as my arm that have excited me over the last few years. The more recent things, and are probably not so recent in SuccessFactors, in the SuccessFactors world, is intelligent services. I mean, it's been almost 2 years since that's come out, which obviously is an age in the SaaS world. But that feature has grown immensely, and I think customers get a lot of value from intelligent services because the way it brings functionality together from different modules based on specific events, and not even modules in the SuccessFactors suite, but also external systems as well. I mean, just imagine that you go on, a leave of absence, for example. There's so many things that are happening regularly that are going to be impacted by that. Let's say it's a long-term leave of absence. Your payroll is going to be impacted. You've got meetings that are going to need to be cancelled or reorganized. You might have performance reviews that are going to be performed in that time. They're going to need to be reassigned or postponed. There's a whole host of different activities that take place, and most systems before, they would all be manual, having to remember, oh, what is it I've got to do? Oh, I'm sure I've got to go and cancel this, or if it's a very unplanned absence, for example, then a colleague's got to take care of all of that, and they've got to then begin to piece together what's going on in the employee's life, in the work life. So intelligent services takes away all of that because it enables the automation of those activities, enables the employee or colleagues to get notified about those activities that need to take place. And that's a very powerful thing because it really takes away a lot of the hassle of these kind of activities. When an employee becomes a manager for the first time, there's a whole host of activities that need to take place. There's going to be some onboarding. There's probably going to be some training courses. They're going to have new goal plans and performance plans they're going to need to review. There might be outstanding requisitions for positions within their new team that they've got to review and approve. And intelligent services brings all of those different activities into one single place to enable the employee to better be able to manage those things and be able to get on with their job better. And there's a whole host of other use cases and examples there that we could talk about, for quite a long time. But I'm going to pause that one there. I mean, in terms of some of the other things, there's things like the integration center, which, every release is growing more and more capabilities to enable businesses to build integrations within the SuccessFactors suite, without the need for programming and whatever else. And that's a really, really powerful tool. And then there's the more simple things like the recent company structure overview. Could be described as it's just an org chart, of your business units and your divisions and your departments. But for a lot of employees, the best way for them to understand their organization is to see it visually. And while they're able to see the reporting structures and the position structures before, for a lot of customers, particularly those in Europe, this is really powerful because it gives them now that visualization of what their organization actually looks like, how it's built out, what are the teams, what are the different business units, who sits within those teams. And I think that, it helps for that total workforce management, which SAP is offering to its customers through SuccessFactors. When you couple that along with the contingent workforce management, being able to view your contingents or employees with concurrent employments in the org chart, and be able to integrate those with different systems like Fieldglass and Ariba and whatever else, it's a really, really powerful end-to-end solution, an end-to-end set of capabilities that SAP have been introducing into the suite. And there's a lot more stuff still to come as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago regarding the company structure overview is the ability to use that if a company is facing a merger or acquisition, when you can do some kind of what if scenarios on the organization and see that. And it's pretty cool, the functionality. And we did a video on that a few weeks ago that's on our website as well. So that's actually a great addition to the solution set. So Michele, I'm going to go back to you for a minute. I'm not going to go in exact order here, but so getting back to MCPO, Celergo worked with iXerv last year and developed that two-way integration between Celergo and Employee Central that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So if I am a customer who has those smaller country payrolls spread across the globe, what does it mean for me? I think you kind of touched a little bit on that, but more importantly, what questions should I be asking? If I come to SuccessConnect and I run into you in the hallway or in a session room, what should I ask you about MCPO?
Okay. So I always kind of step back and say, I believe that each company should do some soul searching before they decide what payroll methodology is really right for them. And I always say this because I think it's important to have a vision and a set of goals before you try to go out and say, okay, how am I going to put all this together? So for example, companies will say, I always ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to reduce cost? Are you trying to increase compliance? I mean, maybe there was some issues, payroll issues out there that you're trying to ensure do not happen again. Are you trying to standardize your policies or your practices, payroll calendars, those kinds of things? Or are you just trying to improve your visibility and your control to local processes? Because sometimes if payroll's processing by itself locally, you don't know if bonuses are being put in at the right time, if raises are being given at the right time. So you do want to get some control around that. Or is this an integration game? Are you trying to get everything integrated so you have one source of truth for your reporting? And so once companies kind of say, okay, this is what we're trying to either fix, or this is the goal we're trying to get to, or this is our to be. And then they can say, then I always say, okay, now how is it really going to operate? What's your future process? So you got to start looking at that and saying, are you going to manage your payrolls locally, regionally, or globally? Are you going to use shared service center? Where will you have all the data you need for payroll in SuccessFactors? Where is that data going to reside? Do I have all the data for implementation? Do I have enough resources? Or are they deployed on multiple projects? Is your company ready culturally for the change in integrating payroll to HR? Because there's a lot of components, not only, I would say, corporate culture, but also local culture. So I think that's really important. And then kind of looking at, well, what other systems are going to be impacted by this? Like, for example, finance. Are we going to have that downstream reporting capability? So the cool thing about this is that there are multiple really exciting options now for processing payroll that Mary had alluded to before through SuccessFactors. And it's really important for a company to determine what's right for them as an organization before they go forward. And then once they do go forward, there's when you look at integration like what we've done through iXerv, connecting SuccessFactors to Celergo, that gives a company a lot of really nice options.
Very cool. So, Luke, I'm going to jump back over to you. You spend an awful lot of time working with Employee Central and obviously your expertise there. So one of the big trends right now, and I think we're going to see it when we get to Vegas for SuccessConnect, is each year this event has more and more customers who are on-premise SAP HCM customers, and they're looking to shift their core HRIS over to Employee Central, and they're looking at that whole path. So my question for you, just do a one-prong question this time after asking you for three things last time, but based on your experiences with Employee Central, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give to someone who's planning to move from on-premise to Employee Central?
Well, there's quite a lot of things that customers need to think about when they're moving to Employee Central, and especially if I'm moving from an on-premise system. I mean, I can't reiterate enough about the need to plan very well. Project management is going to be a key aspect to an implementation, and it's really going to drive whether the project is successful or not. There's a lot of moving parts in an Employee Central implementation, especially when you're integrating with other systems and you're migrating data. So if you're building integrations to SAP ERP, as well as maybe other third-party vendors, maybe for benefits or time and attendance, an LDAP or an identity management system, for example, there's a lot of things going on there. There's a lot of training, a lot of testing, and that leads me on to change management, which is really a critical aspect of a core HR implementation. No matter how intuitive Employee Central is, and how bad your current systems might be, there's a significant amount of change going on, and you need to educate the organization on what you're doing and why you're doing it, what the value proposition is and the benefits to employees, as well as getting those people trained and getting them excited about your new implementation. And that's a really big thing. And I see customers that don't really invest a lot in change management or in project management tend to be a little less successful than those that do. Sometimes a lot less successful. And when moving to on-premise, there's always the aspect of data migration. It's not exciting, it's not sexy, but it's very, very important that you have to get that right. And it's always a lot more work than expected. Your data is always a lot more dirty than you think it is. So there's a lot of effort there in scrubbing, in cleaning, in moving, in aligning with the different structures of data and the different value between systems. It's just a lot of work. So I really do advise that customers plan well, and importantly that they use experienced consultants to do this as well. Sometimes customers can be tempted to pick, particular brand names, but they really need to be looking at getting the right people on the project, looking at resumes, maybe doing reference calls, interviews, making sure the people they're getting have actually done the work before, so they're not getting people that maybe aren't going to give them the right advice or be able to do the right implementation for them. Because it's a big implementation, it's got a big impact and often a big price tag, and you need to get it right.
Okay, Mary, talked a lot about between Luke and Michele, and even what you talked about earlier about some innovations that are happening now. So where do you see the greatest innovation right now at SAP SuccessFactors? And if you're attending SuccessConnect, where would attendees learn more about them? Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, it's a pretty difficult question to answer because there's so much innovations going on across the suite. Now this suite has included all of talent management plus the core HR, benefits, time, and our development department is so large. And with cloud products, like Luke said, it's constantly innovating, constantly changing. I think you see it across the board. Some things that I think are interesting outside of payroll, really. If you look at business beyond bias, diversity and inclusion, in recruiting, we have starting to look at how do we create job recs, and by removing conscious and unconscious bias within those job recs so that you're ensuring you're getting the best talent available for the position. I just spoke a minute ago about diversity inclusion. Working hard, it sounds like an HR product, but there's a point where they're missing where payroll data can be really helpful in digging down to that next level on diversity and inclusion and making sure that everybody's being compensated fairly based on the work that they do, regardless of who they are or where they work. And the part that's missing is the actual payroll compensation that's received by the employees. So from a HR perspective, of course, you can get, rate of pay, date of hire, job class, and all those good things out of it. But what you're missing are spot bonuses, or what I call pat on the back bonuses, things that are outside of a normal payroll cycle. So how do we include all this data that payroll has into the analysis when we do business beyond bias and diversity and inclusion? So that's something we're working on now to roll out and really rolling analytics into it, but with payroll results being a main attribute to that. The most important track to follow for all this is going to be called Rethink Your Approach to Core HR and Payroll. And that's where you're going to get all of the new innovations for across the board. So time management, benefits, payroll, and of course, all the kind of future thinking ideas and initiatives that we have going throughout.
Very cool. And I'm sure also heading to the exhibit hall and going to the SAP booth and talking to the folks there who'll be eager to show all the new stuff as well.
No, absolutely. Plenty of demo pods to see all of it happening. And all of solution management will be there. So you'll be able to have, and they'll be on the floor all the time, quality time with speaking to specific solution managers about any questions you have on any of the products that we offer.
Okay, my last question before we wrap this up, and it'll be a shorter question, and you're all three going to be there, so you'll all be available. People can run into you and ask you questions and meet up and everything else, but real kind of maybe shorter answers, but what are two things that you each want to learn or take away from SuccessConnect this year? So Luke, you first.
I'm really excited to speak to customers and see, for those that have already implemented, how the implementation has gone for them, what value they're seeing, and how SuccessFactors has helped improve their organizations. For prospects, I'm interested in talking to them, seeing where they are today and what kind of things they're looking for out of a HR system. And I'm always interested to see how payroll fits in, of course, and as Mary mentioned at the very start, and Michele did as well. Payroll's really become a a bigger topic and a more interesting topic for customers with all of the additional options available to them. And I'm really interested to see what customers are saying and providing some of my insights to customers as well, to help educate them on the journeys that they're taking.
Okay.
And also excited to see some of the keynote speakers. And generally just find out about some of the new innovations and new features that are coming as well. It should be quite exciting.
Okay, Michele, what are 2 things you're looking to take away?
Well, I think SuccessConnect is a great place to share ideas with other companies. Just when you talk to clients that come in and they talk about not just only technology, but kind of how the processes fit around the technology, and how they're doing that through shared services or integration or reporting. And what I really like to talk to people about, and I like to learn because everybody does this a little bit differently, is how they roll out, kind of look for strategic how they look for, really what their strategic approaches to payroll and how they're trying to improve their payroll operations to really become centers of excellence. Because we've seen that payroll used to just always be something that you kind of just did, and you had to do it, and you had to do it right. It was very transactional based. And now payroll has really moved to becoming something that's really core, and all the data that is in payroll, how does that feed back into HR and impact the organization as a whole, so that they can have that visibility and the analytics to make significant decisions about the organization. So I think that's really exciting, and it's really neat to see how people are doing it differently.
Mary?
Yeah, I think on my part is pretty much exactly the same as Michele and Luke. Maybe from a different perspective though. Speaking to the customers is the highlight for me. I'm pretty much almost already booked, which is awesome, because not only for me speaking to them about what we have to offer, but I love listening to customers or prospects on what their pain points are, where we're missing the mark, what we can do better. So learning from them as much as them learning from me is really the highlight for events like this for me. It's better than traveling to Paris, Illinois on a 4-hour trek through cornfields when I can get them all together in one spot and have these conversations. The other part is we've had some management changes. So we have all new management team at SuccessFactors, and really looking forward to hear what Greg Tom and Amy Wilson have to say. Greg is been around SAP for 19 years now. He's a true veteran and has a great track record. So I'd like to hear his input on what the direction he sees from a customer perspective. And then Amy Wilson is exciting. I've not met her, but have been on a couple of calls with her and seen the information that she brings in from the other companies that she's worked at and the direction that she wants to go with product management and product development. I think is exciting for both internal and for customers to see what the direction of SuccessFactors is going to be.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We didn't mention it all throughout this, is the new leadership with Greg and Amy coming in. This is their time to make their mark and let their strategy and their thoughts be known. So that's a great point. I want to thank Mary Sidlauskas, Michele Honomichl, and Luke Marson for joining us for this iServ Cloudcast today. And hopefully if you are attending SuccessConnect in Las Vegas this month, you will have a chance to meet them individually and ask questions of them. And if you're not attending, always reach out to them. You can connect on LinkedIn or through their respective websites, but definitely do reach out and ask questions if you have them. And we appreciate their time today, and we hope you will join us for another iServ Cloudcast in the future. Thank you.